In this video, I want to talk with you about the Kardia. And I've talked with you about this in other videos, but I know in earlier videos, a lot of people don't get to those past videos. They're listening to the newer ones. And so I think it's important to talk with you about Kardia. You need to have an understanding of what Kardia is. There are two types of minds that are talked about in the Bible. There's the mind of the heart, and then there is the carnal mind. So let me tell you about the mind of the heart. In Matthew 5:8, it says, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God." And that is that word, Kardia. "But I say to you that whosoever looketh on a woman to lust after her hath committed adultery with her already in his heart." Matthew 9:4, "And Jesus, knowing their thoughts, said, Wherefore think ye evil in your hearts?" How can you think in your heart? Well, if you have a mind of the heart, then that's where you're going to be thinking. And that's going to reveal whose mark or seal you have. So when I tell you that what's coming from your heart is coming out of your right hand, your deeds, your forehead, that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the Kardia. What is the mind of your heart? What is that seal or mark in your forehead? Really important that you understand this. When Paul is telling you to be transformed by the renewing of your mind, what he's saying is you need that Kardia, you need that spiritual mind that is transformed by the renewing of God's Spirit and his ministry in your heart. Then it's going to transform your mind. So there is a mind that is conformed to the heart and the Spirit in your heart, and there is a mind that is conformed to the flesh. And that's what's being spoken of here. "And Jesus, knowing their thoughts, said, Wherefore think ye evil in your hearts?" Matthew 15:19, "For out of the heart proceed evil thoughts, murders, adulteries, fornications, thefts, false witness, blasphemies." Mark 7:21, For from within, out of the heart of men proceed evil thoughts, adulteries, fornications, murders. Luke 2:35, "Yea, a sword shall pierce through thy own soul also, that the thoughts of many hearts may be revealed." Luke 5:22, "But when Jesus perceived their thoughts, he answering said unto them, What reason ye in your hearts?" Luke 24:38, "And he said unto them, Why are ye troubled, and why do thoughts arise in your hearts?" So Paul is never telling you to live in your carnality and interact with your carnality. He's telling you to get into that Kardia. In the Hebrew language, a concept will have to do with a lot of different things. So I'm going to read to you a passage from a soul aligned so that you can kind of understand how this works. Because in English, we say mind and we automatically think carnal mind. We don't think of this Kardia and a mind that is associated with the soul and the heart and speech. We don't think that way. But if we understand that that's what's being used in the word, then we can understand Jesus' words a little bit better. If you have a mind that is associated with the heart and speech, well, now you can understand why it is that Christ says that what comes out of your mouth is what defiles you, because it's coming from your heart. What comes out of your mouth and speech is coming from your heart. Contrary to what the world has done and what man has done in order to fragment the creations of God, saying that you go to medicine, you go to the lung doctor to treat your lung, you go to the liver doctor to treat your liver, you go to the, mental health to treat your mind. God created us as a soul. He didn't create us as some fragmentation. Everything interacts together, and that's reflected in the language. It's reflected in his parables and his symbolism. So let me read this to you from a soul aligned. The English language tends to define mind as the thoughts of our carnal mind, our flesh. However, the Hebrew concept of mind is more of a spiritual mind that has to do with the heart, soul, spirit, and speech. According to the Holman Bible Dictionary, the word mind in Hebrew is translated to 6 Hebrew terms with the primary word of leb or lebab, meaning heart. The other meanings translate to soul, nephesh, spirit, ruach, imagination, yetzer, and mouth and speech, peh. The spiritual concept of mind that is referred to in the Bible, therefore, is a mind that is spiritual in nature because it can relate with God and reason in a way that cannot be done in our carnal minds. Do you get that? When you are relating with God in the Spirit and in your heart, you are relating with him in a totally different way. If you don't know that experience, you need to pray that you do. God is not going to meet you in your carnality. He's simply not going to do it. I mean, you can try, but it's not going to happen. And that's exactly why the world tries to get you to think that there's some power in your mind, some power in your body, and some power in the mind-body creation, in the mind-body interaction. It's the very place that God tells you to be disciplined and not to live there. You're not to live there. You know why? Because it's undisciplined and it yearns for and longs for the things of the sinful flesh. You have to live in the heart and spirit. So let's take a look again. What is Kardia relating with? The soul, the spirit, imagination, and the mouth and speech. The spiritual concept of mind that is referred to in the Bible, therefore, is a mind that is spiritual in nature because it can relate with God and reason in a way that cannot be done in our carnal minds. Our spiritual mind interacts with our spiritual soul of heart and spirit and is capable of comprehending the things communicated to us by God's Spirit because it's capable of disciplining to and being aligned and conformed to the Spirit of God. This is a very different kind of mind from the carnal mind, which being sinful flesh fights against the Spirit of God and seeks only to conform to its desires and the evil world. Okay, do you understand that? There's the Kardia, that there's a choice in that person to conform to God, and then there's the carnal mind, which is a mind that's being conformed to the world. You have your brain, but that brain needs to make a decision. Actually, that heart needs to make a decision as to whether you're going to live in that brain on your own authority, on the world's authority, wanting the desires of the sinful flesh. And if that's what you're choosing to do, that is what you are a child of. That is what you are conformed to. That is the spirit that resides in you. But if your heart chooses that you are going to discipline your brain to conform to God, now you have a spiritual mind. Now you have a mind that is standing on the authority of truth, the spirit that is occupying you, and you will be able to comprehend the things communicated to you by God's Spirit. These can also be understood as new wineskins. You can't understand in those other wineskins. You need new wineskins that are transformed, a new heart that is softened and capable of receiving God's ministry. That spirit that's willing inside of you, that's capable of receiving God's ministry. You live in your carnality, you'll never hear him. You succumb to this doctrine, this gospel of the world, that your mind and body have the power, you'll never hear from God. There is a spiritual soul and there is a carnal soul. Our job is to live in and build our spiritual soul and to be reborn and transformed by the Spirit of God who circumcises our hearts from the flesh, gives us a new heart and a new spirit, and ministers to us to make us holy and sanctified for the day of the Lord. If we love God, we will strive to be just like our Father because we adore him and everything he loves. God then is our true healer, and healing is for all of his children, those he has chosen to himself. God is not exempt to those who cannot afford treatment, and healing does not require us to rely on or depend on man. Man has not outwitted the one who created us, and the world will never have more to offer us than God who created the world and everything in it. God is the only one who can heal his creations. I am not a healer. I am a disciple of and ambassador for Jesus Christ. No greater than you, no less than you. John 13:14. I answer to God and I serve God. You are still called to discern everything that I write and say with the gift of the Holy Spirit that God has placed in you, and to discern the Spirit within me to make sure that I am of God. You also do this by observing the fruit that I produce here in this book to make sure that it is aligned with the word and heart of God. I just wanted to make sure that you understand that, Kardia, that you understand your soul. If you are continuing to understand your soul the way that God has designed you, you're going to begin to understand how to heal. But if you defer to the world in its fragmentations, breaking apart and coveting the creation of God, you will never heal and you will never understand. God has made us as a whole soul. If one part of the body is affected, the entire body is affected. He has already established that, hasn't he? So if one part of your soul is affected, the entire soul is affected. And what is the part of your soul that God is most concerned about? Where are you going to be justified? That spirit came from him. It's going to return to him. The place you're going to be justified is in your heart. That's what he is concerned about. What are you doing in your heart? And every fruit will be born from that. What comes out of your right hand? What comes out of your forehead? What comes out of your mouth? But it begins in the heart. And so that is where if that is the source of defilement, that's where you become sick. If that is the source of sanctification, then that is where you're receiving his ministry. That is where the mark or the seal is going to come from. Thank you for listening. God bless you, and I'll see you in the next video.